Hello, hello, pimps and pimpettes! Welcome to the grand finale of this Trifusion series. Again, to summarize, we have fused together Solaire, Lucatiel, and Ostrava from the Soul series games into 3 characters so far. And those have been a combination of those various characters. Ostrava or some other dumb shit. I don't know. You can go look up their names. I don't know. It's a mess. But we're going to take those 3 characters. We're going to put them right next to one another, and we're going to make them make sweet, passionate love, make them kiss, and they're going to produce a horrifying offspring. And that offspring is going to be this video, I guess. So, watch as I deliver this unholy abomination into the world, and later on there will be a little bit of live comm, of course, as I go over the shading portion of the video, which I suppose will be the afterbirth, considering the audio quality of that particular thing. But that's for later, that's for later. For now, enjoy! More important than the physical design of the characters is going to be their personality. And the final result of this character's personality is going to be a combination of both Solaire, Lucatiel, and Ostrava's. So one of the first things that I want to do is take a look at exactly who these people are, what they believed in, what their motivations were, and most importantly, how they lived and how they died.
I am Ostrava of Boletaria. There is something for me to take care of.
Ah, yes, Ostrava. Let's just say that, Ostrava has some issues.
Hello! You yonder! Over here! It's me, Ostrava!
Some reoccurring issues.
Well, now that you are here, pray thee, fend off these dreglings.
Please, help me! I am trapped! Surrounded by dreglings!
Soulstar soldiers are after me!
Could you, perhaps, help me one last time?
Help me! I'll never make it!
Look at me. Again surrounded by evil warriors.
In the name of all that is sacred,
Clear out the soldiers at the far end of this passage, if it pleases you.
help! Help! Oh Lord, hurry, please! I'll be killed! They are almost upon me! My father the king awaits me just over there.
But as we learn a little bit later, there's probably a reason for this. The thing with Ostrava is, most of what we learn about him is through his inactions. His inability to save himself, his inability to do pretty much anything for the most part. A few other NPCs also have 1 or 2 things to say about him, and you learn that they have pretty much the same opinion as the player does.
There's this skinny fella, clad in fabulous armor, who's always mumbling about some mission. He's another one who's managed to stay sane like yourself. Probably some pampered son by the looks of his attire. I'd give an arm just for the buttons off his shirt.
I had an odd piece of news from a merchant dregling. He claims that the son of the king, Ariona, has come to Boletaria alone. Ariona is a wise and kind soul, almost too kind. He would not be safe in this accursed land without protection. If you find Ariona, do look after him, and tell him to return to the Nexus immediately. And that Bjor of the Twin Fangs will look after His Highness.
Bjor is a member of the King's Round Table of Knights. The Dregling Merchant is a survivor of the lowest class of Boletarian citizens. Both have a very similar opinion of Ostrava, which is a pseudonym taken by Prince Ariona Allant. The merchant has little interest in the prince, other than the possibility of scavenging his pampered corpse. Bjor, who likely watched Ariona grow up and knows him rather intimately, tells you to lead the prince to the safety of the Nexus, where he can be protected from himself. The prince is obviously known for being spoiled and incapable. His name carries no sense of respect or fear, and we've seen ourselves that he is a weak fighter and somewhat a coward. Even his name is a joke here. He takes a false name to try to divert attention from himself, but even the Dregling Merchant can discern his true identity. His elaborate armor combined with his lack of skill or courage makes it clear he does not belong here. Then why is he here?
No matter how far I venture, only the soul-starved remain. Is there a single sane person left in Boletaria? This is bad. Not a single person left. Why on earth? How did all of this happen? Father!
His father, the king, surely has answers. But assuming he can even reach his father, what answers will he find? The state of the kingdom seems to be a clear enough answer for us, but what of everyone else?
The king, he's gone mad like the rest of them. But perhaps he was mad in the first place. I can never tell with those eccentric royal oafs.
Do you intend to challenge the king? You may be a great demon hunter, but I fear you may not be ready. The king is defended by the black souls of mighty knights and a fire-breathing dragon. They defeated even myself. That's how I ended up in the dungeon. Beware the limits of your own power.
Anyone that has anything to say the king only offers a warning. No one speaks reverently of him. It's clear to anyone still sane in Boletaria that their king is not an ally. He is something else now, and as we've seen elsewhere, most of Boletaria's so-called heroes are now demons outright, or at best, dead. But Ariona, the spoiled prince, has always had trouble facing obvious truths.
Here in Boletaria, we speak of the legend of the two swords and the last hero. The two swords are Demonbrand and Soulbrand. One sword banishes that which befouls man, and the other banishes man himself. The last hero is old King Doran. King Doran is the Everlasting One, founder of Boletaria and protector of the two swords. Of course, only according to legend. But in the dark state of our land, legends are all we can depend upon. At its peak, Boletaria was a grand kingdom. The king, his knights, and his subjects were modest and plain, but also steadfast and compassionate. In the distant southern kingdom, Boletaria was known as paradise on earth. But look at what has become of us now. I refuse to believe that this is what Father wished for our great land. But perhaps our age will see the rise of new heroes, such as yourself.
Ostrava still seems naive. He jokes of legends, upbeat and even somewhat dismissive of what has befallen his own kingdom. Even speaking of the past, he holds an almost childlike, fairy tale-like view of what Boletaria once was. In our own travels, we've learned that even prior to the arrival of the Deep Fog, many suffered here. Of course, a spoiled prince would know nothing of this. A recurring theme for Ariona. Even as the false knight Ostrava, he's blind to everything. The state of his kingdom, the fate of his father, and perhaps most importantly, his own weakness, cowardice, and ineptitude.
Oh, it's you, is it? My father is up above. Well, what's left of him anyway? He's transformed into a fiendish demon. I began this quest in a search for truth, but it seems I was a fool to even try. Please, kill my father. In his degenerated state, he can only bring peril to the lands. This key fits the Boletaria mausoleum. Inside the mausoleum are my father's two swords, Soulbrand and Demonbrand. Use them to bring an end to this madness.
On the steps leading to his father's throne, Ostrava finally gives up. While we don't see his physical journey here, we can tell that he's seen too much. At last, everything seems to fall together. His kingdom, his father, his entire mission is all lost. Legends are no longer a comfort. Boletaria is not only lost, it is damned. Nothing will bring it back to its former state, and certainly not to the alleged glory of Ariona's memory. Even worse, this seems to lift the veil from himself as well. He cannot face his father. Perhaps due to weakness, perhaps due to cowardice. Something in his voice seems to imply that he recognizes both. In one final act, he does what very little he can to help you, and then kills himself on the steps. His souls will at least be some minor offering to your own power. We can only assume what his final thoughts were. Certainly, killing the king will do nothing for his kingdom. But perhaps this was his final act, not as a prince, but as a son. Perhaps Boletaria deserved its fate, and perhaps so did he. An end to the royal line of a dead kingdom, and an end to his own weakness and the beginning of a new, more deserving legend.
Ah, hello. You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight.
The first time we meet Solaire, he's on an isolated balcony, at the meeting point of many paths staring up into the heavens. Before now, we've never met anyone that's been friendly, exactly. Only tolerant or willing to exchange resources. Of the people we will meet in Lordran, Solaire is one of the very few that we might call a friend.
Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time.
We quickly learn a few things about our new friend. One is that he is a very religious man. Like many during the Age of Fire, he worships Gwyn. More specifically, he worships the sun. He admits his goal in Lordran is to find his own son. It's never clear what he means by this. Is he looking for power? Is he looking for meaning? Perhaps there's some doctrine he adheres to that would explain this a little more? In any case, the only thing that is always clear is that Solaire is a good, kind person, and only wishes to be helpful to others.
Oh, aha. So I didn't scare you. I have a proposition, if you have a moment. The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined, both undead, both imprisoned in the asylum, and now we both end up here, in a land brimming with hollows. Could that really be mere chance? I hardly think so. Now, I know not of your designs, but I sense something singular about you. So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey?
Oddly enough, Solaire senses the same thing about us. Even if you reject his offer...
Well, yes, quite understandable. Not to worry. Let there be no obligation. I do not wish to impose. I was in the wrong. We'll laugh it off, shall we?
He isn't disappointed in you. In fact, he takes the blame on himself. This will become a reoccurring theme in our interactions with Solaire. He is always giving, never asking.
Oh, yes. Wonderful. This pleases me greatly. We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact. But use this, and engage in jolly cooperation. Of course, we are not the only ones engaged in this, but I am a warrior of the sun. Spot my summon signature easily by its brilliant aura. If you miss it, you must be blind.
One of Solaire's many oddities is that he isn't actually from our own world. Time and space are not completely settled in Lordran, and Solaire, like many that we will meet, has crossed over into our own world. Anything that he does for us here will not help him directly. In fact, the only time we seem to be a part of Solaire's world are during these simple moments of conversation, when both of our dimensions intersect. We never have the chance to directly help Solaire fight in his own home, but we get the feeling this is enough for him. He only wants for our own happiness, and enjoys our companionship above all else.
I will stay behind to gaze at the sun. The sun is a wondrous body, like a magnificent father. If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
The reason for why Solaire is the way that he is undoubtedly linked to his beliefs. We can only guess as to what his goal is, even though he's already tried to tell us. Whatever his motivation, it seems deeply connected to the core of his being. We want to see him succeed, but we cannot help him. There is a lingering sadness behind Solaire's laughter. We can tell that whether he succeeds or not, the result will deeply affect him in a way that we can't understand.
Oh, there you are. You've been quiet these days? Smooth summoning out there? Anytime you see my brilliantly shining signature, do not hesitate to call upon me. You've left me with quite an impression. I would relish a chance to assist you.
In every chance meeting with Solaire, even if he hasn't seen us in a while, he compliments us. He encourages us. And in both of our lonely, dangerous worlds, he's often our only companion. And always He promises to be there for us, unconditionally.
Oh, hello there. I'm glad to see you alive. You have done well. Indeed you have. You've a strong arm, strong faith, and most importantly, a strong heart. I am in awe, really. You really are fond of chatting with me, aren't you? If I didn't know better, I'd think you had feelings for me. Oh no, dear me, pretend you didn't hear that.
Oh, you. If we express the same desire to help others as Solaire, he even invites us into his religion.
Yes, yes. What do you think? Why not join me as a warrior of the sun, righteous knights, guardians of all that is good, in the name of the Lord of Sunlight? Only if it would please you, of course. Well?
And again, even if we don't agree...
Yes, well, each has one's beliefs. But if you change your mind, the offer is open.
It's still nothing personal, although he does seem sort of devastated. But on the other hand, if you agree...
Oh, magnificent. I knew you would fancy it. Then join the covenant. Here, stay still for a moment. And there we are. Now, just say a prayer at the altar of sunlight, right there. Then you shall know our radiance, our duty. Then you shall know the brilliance of our sun.
After hearing this, it seems a bit more clear what the sun means to Solaire. It isn't just an object in the sky. It's not just a star. To Solaire, the sun is a way of summarizing everything that is good in the world. It is honor, duty, the privilege of helping others, and the joy of fellowship. But once you realize this, you reflect back on his mission. He wants to find his own sun. What could this mean?
Oh, hello there. Exhilarating, is it not? The power of the sun. I am blessed to have found such a brave companion. But truly, I could not hope for a braver companion than you.
Jeez, Solaire. It's amazing how he can make you feel some pretty complicated emotions with just laughter and joy. The best way I can describe our relationship with him is that we desperately don't want to disappoint him. But we haven't had much of a chance to help him so far, have we? There's a hint of sorrow every time that we've spoken to him. No matter what becomes of our good friend, it seems that, good or bad, there's nothing that we can do.
Oh, hello there. Forgive me, I was just pondering about my poor fortune. I did not find my own son, not even in Anor Londo, nor in Twilight Blight Town. Where else might my son be? Lost Izalith? Or the tomb of the Grave Lord? But I cannot give up. I became undead to pursue this. But when I peer at the sun up above, it occurs to me, what if I am seen as a laughingstock, as a blind fool without reason? Well, I suppose they wouldn't be far off.
This is the first time that we've ever heard Solaire speak so honestly. He is so dedicated to his cause, whatever that is, that he has become undead to pursue it. Whether this means that he took his own life, or perhaps did something far worse, we don't know. What is clear is that he's given up everything, in the hope that he would find his own son. Is he mad? Does he have some debilitating mental illness? Or is he fanatical? No matter the answer, he is distant and isolated. The man of fellowship is alone. It's frustrating for us as we have no way of helping him. We don't understand his goal, and perhaps it's this gap between us that Solaire is truly looking to overcome. He has given up everything and absolutely never asks for himself. It's painful to finally hear him opening up to his own weakness, and more painful to know that we can do nothing. Perhaps the most troubling knowledge is something we learned from our journey to Anor Londo. The sun is an illusion. Gwyn's power has nearly faded completely, and with it all light in the world. The age of fire is waning. The brilliant father that Solaire has looked upon with such fondness for so long is a lie, placed in the sky by Gwyn's son Gwyndolin. Whether this truly makes him a fool or not, who can say? If the sun can fade, was it ever real in the first place? Such questions and their answers are too philosophical to cleanly address. And similarly, Solaire's troubles too complex for salvation.
Why? Why? After all this searching, I still cannot find it. Was it all a lie? Have I done this all for nothing? Oh, my dear son. What now? What should I do? My son. My dear, dear son.
The next time we see Solaire, he is possessed. Demonic aberrations living along the forgotten path to the false fires of Izalith found Solaire in his wandering. One of these chaos bugs, a sunlit maggot, has enveloped our friend. Solaire is audibly in pain, but also convinced that he has succeeded in his mission. Contrary to how we know him, he is also aggressive, violent. He is not himself. There is not much time to think. We must make up our minds there. Do we escape? Or do we put him down? Is it worth living a lie with a false sun? Or should we surrender to the dark? Even if we could rescue Solaire from this particular outcome, he eventually must make the same decision in his own world, just as we must make it in ours.
Finally, I have found it. I have. My very own son. I am the son. I've done it. I have. Yes, I did it. I did. Oh. Oh. It's over. My son, it's setting. It's dark. So dark.
I don't know you, and you don't know me. Things are better that way. You are an odd one. Normally, people keep a safe distance when they see this mask. But you... I'm called Lucatiel, from the land of Mirror to the far east, across the mountains. I've always made a point of avoiding people, while you've made a point of engaging me. I can see that you are mid-journey. If you require assistance, I will help you. Don't hesitate to call upon me. Whatever happens, I won't be missed.
When we first meet Lucatiel, it's clear that she has been trying to avoid people at all costs. Although, she seems to abandon this very quickly. It isn't clear if her policy of avoiding people is something that she has only recently begun, or something that she has lived with her entire life. If it is something that has been true for her entire life, including her childhood, then that seems to imply that there are very few people in this world that she actually feels close to. And that would seem to imply even further that perhaps she has always wanted more kinship but has never had the opportunity.
Our land of Mirror is surrounded by enemies and constantly at war. There is only one way up in Mirror. Join the Order and prove yourself in battle. My family had little fortune and no name. I had to carve out a piece of the world for myself. Life was hard, but I never gave it a second thought. I had swift success on the battlefield and quickly attained respectable stature. And then I came here to...
Lucatiel is a skilled warrior, but came from a very lonely homeland, which seems to only care about warfare. Since she did grow up in this land, if she is missing something, she can't see it. If there is an emptiness inside of anyone within Mirror, that seems to be covered up by basic duty to the state, by warfare. She managed to carve out a life for herself here, but perhaps it wasn't much of a life to speak of. This seems to have some relationship to why she came to Drangleic in the first place, but even she can't quite remember.
This is for you. Of course, I've no idea what it is.
She gives you a gift of a human effigy, an item that you know is used to reverse the effects of hollowing. Like anyone afflicted with the undead curse, you are effectively immortal. The only way that you can actually die is if you are slain in combat. And if you are slain, then you are simply brought back to life anyways, in an endless circle of resurrection. However, each time that this happens, you effectively lose a little bit of yourself in the process. You both physically and mentally lose pieces of your humanity, your own soul, until you become nothing more than a living husk. Your body in this case will remain immortal, but the person that you were will be gone forever. This item is one of the keys to reversing that process. The fact that Lucatiel gives you this item can mean one of two things. The most obvious is that she does not know what this item does, and that if she did, then it could be a benefit to her in the future. Like many things in Drangleic, this item is an unusual artifact that she does not know the meaning of. Eventually, this would explain why she begins to hollow herself, and why her mind begins to slip away when yours does not. The second is that she knows fully well what this item is and what it does. Just that she doesn't know what the item does, which in fact implies that she herself is one of the cursed undead.
Have you heard of the undead? These poor souls affected by the curse.
An undead gradually loses his humanity until his wits degrade completely.
Finally, he turns hollow and preys upon others.
And a hollow can never be human again.
One can skirt this wicked fate only with the help of the souls found here. Assuming, of course, that the legends are true. I can only hope that they are.
Lucatiel finally removes her mask and reveals what we have suspected all along, that she is, in fact, going hollow. Yet something is unusual about her explanation. She uses the word he, even though it's quite obvious that she is female. It's almost as though she's thinking of someone else.
I had an older brother. We learned to fence together. He became the most decorated swordsman in all of Mirror. I never even compared to him. In fact, I never beat him, not once. But then, one day, he was gone, lost without a trace. Now I'm certain that he was taken by the curse. If only someone would hear my tale. My brother must have come here, too. Soon I may forget even about him.
Again, life in Mirror is given completely to the state. In a life of eternal hollow war, what gave Lucatiel purpose? Most certainly this was her brother. She never learned what happened to him. Did he die on the battlefield? His corpse lost or disfigured beyond recognition? The only answer that can give her hope is the possibility that he escaped Mirror, in the only way that any of its citizens ever do, as an undead. That is why she's in Drangleic. Even if her brother is a mere hollow by now, she must have an answer. We can only assume how harrowing it is to not know, to fear that her brother is a nameless body somewhere, picked clean by vultures or buried in a mass grave, without any sense of identity or legacy or honor. Unfortunately, even now, her thoughts are beginning to wander. Soon, that same fate that she feared for her brother might befall her as well.
I found my thoughts growing hazy. My memories are fading, oldest first. The curse is doing its work upon me. I am frightened. Terribly so. If everything should fade, what will be left of me?
Her first memories, undoubtedly those of her brother, are beginning to fade. And she is beginning to fade as well.
Oh, you... My thoughts are very scattered. What is this curse? The question rings in my mind, but I haven't the focus to answer it. Loss frightens me no end. Loss of memory, loss of self. If I were told that by killing you I would be freed of this curse, then I would draw my sword without hesitation. I don't want to die. I want to exist. I would sacrifice anything at all for this. It shames me, but it is the truth. Sometimes I feel obsessed with this insignificant thing called self. But even so, I am compelled to preserve it. Am I wrong to feel so? Surely you do the same in my shoes. Maybe we're all cursed. From the moment we're born.
Perhaps the most important dialogue spoken in Drangleic, Lucatiel finally touches upon what has driven everyone to this dead kingdom, and what ultimately has destroyed them all. She says nothing of her brother, if she even recalls his existence. The only thing left for her is fear. Her corpse is still alive, but can feel her sense of self, her soul, dying. Unlike those lucky enough to die outright, she can see the curse of life from the outside. She can see the memory of who she was fading from human knowledge, and everything that she ever was vanishing without meaning. Her body will live on forever as an empty, faceless, nameless hollow. Perhaps by now the fate she once feared for her brother, dying as a nameless but honored soldier, was clearly a better end. She will simply fade, her soul imprisoned to evaporate to the abyss. The only person she has now is you. Given the chance, what should she do? Fade into nothing, with only you left to carry a vague memory of who she was? Or kill the only person she has left, and give up the person she believes herself to be, simply to remain in a lonely world?
Who are you? Oh, no, forgive me. I know you. Yes, of course.
How goes your journey?
I know not what you seek in this faraway land, but I pray for your safety.
My name is Lucatiel. I beg of you, remember my name.
For I may not myself.
This is the last we ever see of Lucatiel. After this, she vanishes, in much the same way her brother once did. We never see her hollowed body, nor hear her spoken of again. The only person that remembers her is you. In the end, she hoped that would be enough. As for her brother, a mere distance from where she succumbs to the curse, we find him. He is not hollow, nor is he honored. He is a black phantom, an undead, seeking to prolong his own existence by killing others. He says nothing, even upon defeat. Even if he has any sense of his former self, he is obviously not the person Lucatiel remembered him to be. If she had survived a little longer, perhaps she could have changed things. Or perhaps it was best that she gave up on life here. At least she vanished with the memory of hope, as all humans do.
Oh, my dear brother. Please, find my brother.
Did you like that? Did you like how fucking depressing that was? But that's okay. I actually like the fact that it's depressing. To me, that's one of the strengths of the Soul games. Is the fact that... And this is something that actually is very popular in high literature, is the idea that things are more beautiful because they are tragic. That's something that I think Dark Souls 2 lost, is the idea that a lot of these characters are memorable. They mean something to you. simply because they end up having bad endings. It's not necessarily endings that are undesirable, but things that, because of the fact that they ended tragically, actually signify more about their characters than if they actually had a good ending, if that makes any sense to you. Whenever you're writing a story, a lot of people, of course, read or play things for the sake of escapism. So the idea of things not ending in a good way tends to offend a lot of people. But if you're going for something like a Souls game, something that actually has some meaning and isn't just a video game, squeaky chair, stop squeaking, then it's actually going to benefit you a lot more to have characters that exist for some higher purpose. And in the case of someone like Solaire or Lucatiel, and to a lesser extent, I feel, Ostrava, a lot of that is going to be accomplished by them not having good endings. It's going to be accomplished by them realizing the futility of what they're doing, or recognizing that they aren't as good of a person as they thought they were, or having some sort of higher motivation, some sort of higher realization, and having their life be more poignant as a result. But I will explain more how I'm going to combine those personalities in my own mind anyways, in the little later bits of this video. For now, we're going to get into a little bit of livecom, and I wanted to take a moment to apologize for the audio quality once again. Yes, I know. I'm still haven't quite figured this out yet. But in this case, I think it wasn't quite all the fault of my audio box. Because I am working at such a huge resolution. This is like 5,000 by something or other. 5,200 something. And I'm working on probably nearing 100 layers by this point. You can see the memory use in the lower bottom corner. The more that it drags on, I feel the more exertion it's putting on even this computer, this new computer. And that, as a result, can create some electrical interference inside of the computer stack, which is what is actually causing that interference, I think. Could be wrong. I'll figure it out later, maybe. Haha. But for now, let's get right into that livecom, as I promised. And I will come back in the future after this livecom bit. I will see you guys then. Oh god damn it, the mantis are attacking! We've been betrayed! Sound the alarm! Get the plasma weapon! Okay, hello. We're on to the shading portion of the video, which I already kind of started on in a way, and that already does not look right. Hold on. You can see how this works whenever I turn that off, but fix that up a little bit. Yeah, it's good enough, and I'm probably not even going to be using this. But this is all one solid color, and of course you have to switch it over multiply, and then all of a sudden, ooh, it's like magic. But I might not even be using this. This is just sort of a very loose, sort of preliminary idea of what I may or may not end up using. I have no idea. Let's get rid of some of you, though, because that's pretty distracting. Good enough. Okay. In fact, we can probably just turn... I don't know. Let's lower it down to almost nothing, because I just wanted to have that idea there. Okay. Alright. Shade 2. The reason why that you contain all of these to their own layer is so that you can select them very easily. Like in this one. I have this feather big thing, which controls the color of this individual big feather. And all I have to do, since it's contained to its own layer, is use my wand tool, wherever it happens to be, right here. Wand tool W. And just select anywhere else, except for this. If I select that, it'll select it. Select anywhere else, and it'll select everything that is not that big feather. Then I just go up, invert the selection, and then it automatically selects whatever is the opposite of whatever I did select, which means that it's going to be this. I said that in the most confusing way possible, but that's okay. Okay, and I'm also picking the worst possible thing that I could pick to color, first off. But that's okay too. Everything's okay. Really this feather is not the best example for this sort of thing. First of all, before I even begin, let's discuss something. What's the light source going to be? That's the first thing that you should consider whenever you're doing any sort of shading. What is the light source going to be? And in this case, it is going to be the spear that they are going to be throwing later on, which I'm not going to do just yet. I'm going to wait till much later on, which means there's going to be a huge-ass light source right here in this general area. Which means that a lot of things very close to this, like right here and, you know, like here. Any place that the light can actually get to. Probably not so much there. Like right here especially, since that's the hand that's going to be holding it. And of course here and so on, things like that. All that is probably going to be almost completely white, because it's going to be so bright and these surfaces are going to be reflecting that so hard, just rock hard. Which means that the further away from that you get, and to the point where, actually, hold on, let me consider this. Let's say that, you know, lightning spear is right there. It's going to be hitting this, it's going to be hitting it, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to draw the things that it's not going to be hitting. For instance, the light is going to come down, and it's going to be hitting something like this. But as a result, it's going to be casting a shadow about right here, which means that this is probably going to be very, very dark. And similarly, it's going to be coming down and hitting this helmet, which means that the light will probably stop here, and then it will start, it'll just a little bit will probably cast off near the edge of that and illuminate this area. But this area, in contrast, especially kind of this sort of zone, it'll probably radiate a little bit around and catch the offside of this. This will probably be very dark as well. So I think even with this, I don't even know why I did this awful looking shading layer. Just to, I don't know, I was watching Star Trek, I don't know what the fuck I was doing. But anyways, whenever you're doing this, you need to consider that. Where is the light going to be hitting the most? And as a result, since this is a three-dimensional space, what is going to be catching it and creating shadows as a result? Like this is not going to get past this, and it's kind of hovering over this area, which means that there's going to be a shadow cast about probably right around here. And actually no, because it's going to extend back further than this. Like the whole lightning spear is about right here. Which means that the light's going to be coming down right here as well, which means that's not true at all. I'm a liar! I'm a liar, and there'll probably sort of be a loose shadow right here, but not much of one. The rest of this is probably going to be very, very bright. Let's go ahead and turn you off, actually. Shade 1. But that's how you're going to do this. Let's, instead of doing the feather, because that's going to be a pain in the ass, let's instead choose something else, and have it be the armor, I guess. Yeah, here it is. Invert. As I said before, if you didn't keep track of it, you should have been paying attention. And now... Oh, this swirly shit. Oh, fuck. I'm going to regret this. These things. I don't know. I worked like 2 hours trying to get all that down. But even then, that's something really that I should be doing in Photoshop. Because really what you would do, you would make like a custom sort of texture out of whatever you're going to be making the emblem out of. And then you would just control where exactly it's falling using the more precise deform tools inside of Photoshop. But I'm not that smart, apparently. Anyways, let's get right on to this armor. I wanted to, I guess, go over... It should be pretty evident exactly how to shade, like, this. Let's go ahead and make this multiply just to make it evident what I'm doing. And I really don't like that color for that. Let's go ahead and adjust it. Normally I would adjust this afterwards. Actually, hold on. You notice it doesn't matter what color I pick. It can be this. It just does not matter. But the point is that it needs to be something that you can actually see what it is that you're doing. And after you get that laid down, let's say that we already had finished this whole thing. Then you can adjust what exactly that color is going to be. And whenever you're picking what color this is going to be, there are two things that you need to consider. One is what the light source is, what color that is. And I guess if it's like a light source like this, where it's a big lightning bolt thing, then you would also want to consider what the natural light source would be, like the sun or something like that. And the second thing that you really want to consider is what the material is. Like this is after the 2 hours that I spent trying to finalize the colors, which I may end up changing, this is a sort of almost bluish green that is so incredibly low on saturation that you can barely even tell that it's there. Which means that whenever you're controlling this tint, we can start in the, like, let's say that it was green. this lightning bolt up here could be, I might make it yellow, I might make it red, blue, I have no idea yet. That comes later. But, this material that I'm working on is going to be this bluish green, so that has a lower saturation. So what I can do is just pull the saturation down, make sure that it's on this bluish green, and that way it naturally control the luminescence to make sure that it's at the level that I want it to be. And I can control it like that. Since this is going to be one of the few areas that's not going to be getting much light, whenever you're adjusting the total amounts of darkness that this shade is going to be, then this is probably going to be the darkest that you're going to want it to be. So what you can do is, let's select this, color drop this, multiply. So whenever you're going back over and, say, doing this area, you notice that this is way too dark. Like, there's going to be a lot of light here. So this would not be anywhere near as bad as this is going to be. And that's the reason why I use multiple shade layers usually. It's so that I don't have to resort to doing things like this. Like going to my eraser, changing the density to like 1, 2, that controls it up to 10%, 20%. And let's set it to 1. Then I would end up having to do it like this. And go back over each individual area and try to control it to the point where it looks somewhat natural. Don't want to do that. Kind of a pain in the ass. What I instead want to do is... Let's go ahead and restore you. Yeah, that's good enough. Instead, let's say that this was my shading 1 layer. I would instead just make this sort of light. And then say we got another shading layer complete. In this case, shade 1. Let's just go ahead and use this. Turn that on, and now, since they're overlapping, that gives us a little bit more depth to the overall quality of the shading. Of course, this is just doing it as quickly as you possibly can. If you're actually doing this correctly, what you would do is kind of the same thing. You would... Whoops, not eraser. There we go. You would still be doing the same thing. You would... Actually, if you're doing this purely correctly, as realistically as possible, you wouldn't even be using these lines. What you do is you would do something like say we're drawing this area, we would get like a really rough shape down of what it happens to be, and kind of seal that off. Then go back over it, and let's say pick a lighter color, something in this range. Go back over it like this, control, and just do the lighting in real time, rather than going back over it later on. And you just kind of just keep doing this. Pick out the darkest shade first, and then the lightest shade after that. And then worry about your midtones by going along the edges and color dropping the edges like that. Pick a good shading brush, and just go through and shade things off like that. So that you kind of naturally end up with a good mid-tone for the whole area. And just kind of push this down, pull it to where you need it to be. That sort of thing. Of course, this looks awful because I drew that in like 30 seconds, but whatever. That is also fine. So that's basically the rough idea of how I shade. Having said that, let's begin shading. Nervous laughter. But that's fine. I recently had the rollback on my video driver, so I'm rather anxious about whether or not this is recording properly or not. Been having a lot of trouble with my video card. Or maybe not specifically my video card, more Shadow of Mordor has been a big problem with me. And it actually caused my computer to blue screen today, which has made me very suspicious. But this already I'm not liking the look of. A lot of it is because I'm using this very hard edge. Because there's going to be a very strong light source here. So, since this is right next to it, all of these would... Go ahead and switch to eraser, why not? All of this would be very, very soft. So regardless of whether I'm using multiple layers to try to create the illusion of depth, in this case I really would want to erase all these edges down, because otherwise you're just going to get overlapping hard seams in all of your shading layers. And that is really going to come through and be very, very ugly looking. But the original point that I was going to make about the natural surface of this, let's go ahead and finish that off. Okay, is, again, this is sort of that blue-green thing. But let's say that we went ahead and finalized this as being a yellow lightning bolt. This would probably not be a good choice then, because it's a little too, even too saturated right now. But what we can do is kind of pull this over, and you notice, let's give it a different example here. Let's say that this was the same blue-green armor that it is now, and this instead was, what would be a good one? Red. Let's say that it's red. Let's say the lightning bolt is red. So we would start at this sort of blue-green tint here, and we would try to move this over a little bit towards the red spectrum. That is, you see this color wheel up here? We're right now over here. We're in this kind of blue-green area. And we want to move this over to the red area. So what are we going to get whenever we try to add red to a bluish green? We're probably going to, of course it depends on how much of that level that you're adding, but something that would probably look natural would probably be moving slightly over until we get to sort of a violet area. And that's a little bit too much saturation. Pull that down a little bit. I mean, don't underestimate the saturation. Saturation is one of the most important things that you have to worry about in regards to painting and shading. Because too much and it looks quote-unquote bright, even though the luminescence is the same. A lot of people will get confused by this. They'll have something that's just extraordinarily bright looking, and they will keep trying to pull it up and down, but it doesn't look right. Like you make it too much and it starts to fade away. You pull it down too much into the darker luminescence and it becomes black. And the problem is that it has too much saturation. So we pull this down just a little bit, and that looks a bit more natural. And you would think, that's a lot of, I mean, you're really just making a sort of gray, right? And yeah, to be fair, this is sort of just gray that we're working with here. But just making very small changes can pay off a lot in the long run. This, to me, looks a bit more natural. So what color do we actually use? In this case, we used a purple. That's actually what we created, but whenever we set it to multiply, it almost has sort of a red tint to it, which is kind of unusual. And it also varies on what monitor that you're looking at. Like, for example, on my monitor, it looks sort of reddish, purple, reddish, sort of. But on yours, it's going to look, it could be anything. It could be sort of bluish looking. I have no idea. It just depends. It depends on your color profile. And that's the reason why, if you're, say, working on Photoshop, it's important to figure out what color profile that you need to export on, which usually is the document profile. And I'm saying all this and rambling it off, but a lot of this is just probably just way too much information for you guys. But anyways, that's just what I think about whenever I'm shading. I go completely insane and start thinking about all sorts of random shit. That's why I need background information like Star Trek, to keep me distracted, lest I kill myself or others. Or maybe both, I don't know. But, let's see, what's another good thing to demonstrate real fast? What's the right shading one? See, whenever you have, that's the problem with having multiple shading layers, is that this ends up looking very unnatural. Because this is not erased down. These are hard edges. As you can see here, I'm erasing away some of them. Which makes this look incredibly unnatural. So, usually whenever you're using two different layers like this, and they're both using it for shading, usually what you're actually doing is you have one that is for very minor things like this, and you go through and you do that, and, everywhere it's just, everything's very loose and has very soft edges on, say, one layer, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other one, it would be not this sort of hard edge stuff, but you would still be shading it the same way, except the other shading layer would be for your most intense shadows. Like, say, if you're having a really, really dark cast shadow right here, turn that all the way up, then, I shouldn't be using that as an example. Actually, I want to turn that off. Turn this on. Multiply. Okay. Let's say that we have one very intense shadow that's coming off of this pauldron here. And it would be something like that. You know, whatever. I can't do this correctly because I'm having to do commentary. But you would end up doing that, and only that would overlap. What's a good example? Maybe this right here. Let's go ahead and get this down as quickly as possible. I feel sorry for people that actually have to do like full landscape paintings and full commentary. I have no idea how they concentrate. But let's say that it looks something like that. And have I erased this? Okay. But you notice, of course, the natural effect of having this these two multiplying through each other. You get a very, very dark shade as a result. And that's the reason why, if you're working on two different layers, you want to concentrate on one being your primary shading layer, and the other kind of just being your super shading layer, your one that's made for very intense shadows. That is my recommendation. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. You do it whenever you want, I don't care. That's fine. That is also fine. What else to demonstrate? What else to explain? Because obviously I'm not going to shade this whole damn thing, because shading this whole damn thing is going to take probably about 3 hours. It's already taken me, as of the moment of this recording, it's already taken like 8 hours, so... Yep, not going to do that. Instead, let's see, what else do we got? Of course, this would also be a good example of a very hard shading area, because this is one of the areas that the light is going to be reaching the least. So you would have like a very dark shadow down here, and keep an eye out for that in the final version of this. You should see what I decided on as far as where the lighting is going to be hitting the most. The other thing I want to talk about, I guess, is the other side of the things. Instead of shading, lighting things, trying to get things to look correctly in that department. Again, our light source is up here. So let's say that we have a very strong lighting source right here. And again, this does not look natural because the edges are too hard. If I can pull this down. And the reason why it's doing this, turn this on normal. You see that I have been erasing pretty carefully, and this looks a little bit more natural right now. But once we set it to luminosity, which is really what we want, you notice that it kind of pushes itself out. Say if we use overlay, for example, then it gets this other effect. You just have to keep using different ones and erasing away what you don't need until one of these looks okay. I have been in the habit of using luminosity recently, so I'll probably end up using that in the final result. But whenever you're doing that, what you want to do is get as close to this edge as you possibly can. Use the line work, if you're working the same way that I do, as your guiding point, so you know exactly where it is that you need to stop your stroke. And you end up kind of just doing this number. Let's raise you down a little bit so the lighting looks a bit more natural. Actually, it would probably extend way over here, but just for the sake of this, I'll keep it simple. And one thing you'll also notice is that if you go down, say here, since this is working on luminosity, then it's blocking off this sort of emblem thing that we're doing. Whereas, overlay, luminosity, all these are probably too much. Yeah, all that's too much. Because this is a pure white that we're working with right now. And pure whites are always a problem. Haha, racial humor. Whites are always a problem whenever you're working this. And you see this lighting looks a bit more natural. Like this extremely strong... There's a giant lightning bolt over me sort of lighting that we're getting right here. So you want your... I know some people were complaining about this, but you do want your whitest whites to be white as fuck. And you want your blackest blacks, which are going to be like this, to be as black can be. And what else did I want to point out with this? Just that... This is our strongest version, and let's say... I'll explain it this way. You notice that all of this is kind of mid-tone. Like, even this is not really that dark. I wanted it to be that way because most of the darks that we're going to get are going to be controlled with a shading layer. And most of the intense lighting that we're going to be getting is controlled with yet another layer, which means that our midtone should be as natural as possible. Because let's go down and demonstrate that. Let's say that our armor down here was too dark, like it wasn't a midtone. Like this is very white, obviously, and this is very dark. Let's say that, actually, that looks pretty cool. Too bad it doesn't match any of the pre-existing themes of the other fusions. But anyways, let's say that we were doing that, and we didn't have a natural midtone. And as a result, you notice this looks very, very unnatural. Because whenever you have an intense light like this, shining on something that is completely this black black metal color, then this is not going to be pure white. It would probably look sort of more like this. It would give off grays instead of a pure white. And for the sake of... and we can do it that way, that's fine. But say that we did want this to be white, you would have to come down and work over this entire area. And you would end up having to create midtones naturally. Because you notice this area does not look natural whatsoever. So it would be extremely arduous trying to control each and every little bitty area to make this look as natural as possible. That's why you want your base colors, if I can get undo, come on, there we go. Whoa, too far. That's why you want your base colors to be midtones, because that's going to make it much easier on you. And even if you're doing straight up just paintings, you know, let's get rid of you, why not? I'll keep you around. Okay. And even if you were just doing like actually, hold on. Colors, background. Let's say that we're doing a background, because I might do this later on. Let's say that we were doing a background and say we wanted, you know, like some fallen pillars over here or something. And in this case, you would want, like say if I was doing a more realistic painting rather than doing line drawing, I would work out my basic shapes of where everything is going to be. Say some rubble over here. Why not? And in this base stage, you definitely do not want to work on detail. Everything you're doing is just working on trying to establish very basic shapes that you're going to end up working on. And I'm doing this just to point out that even whenever you're doing this, you notice you're not working in blacks, and you're not working in whites. You're working with a midtone. Because that way, let's sample that, whenever you go back over and you start doing, you know, darker bullshit, then you don't have to worry about this. You can just use your blending brush, whatever it happens to be, and just pull things over as you wish, and since there's a midtone right next to it already, you don't have to worry about it at all. So don't start too heavy on blacks, don't start too heavy on whites, or else you're going to have a lot of balance problems. If it could only work that way in real life, Ferguson, Missouri. No political thing from me, not today. Okay, that's about it as far as things I want to demonstrate goes. I tried to condense this as much as I possibly could, because I'm sure this thing is really fucking long already. And I'll probably handle all the commentary criticisms so far. I will say these colors might change in the future. I'm still not completely sold on them. But, if I can get my originals back. These are the original fellows. Let's turn my colors off for a moment, that way I can sort of see. But you notice that these guys are all sort of grayish, brownish, and with just very little bitty hints of saturated, kind of, you know, other saturated, accentuating colors, like green, sort of this magenta, reddish kind of thing. And people were complaining, you know, how come you did this bright orange feather? It's because I wanted to have color options for these future fusions. Because if I had made everything look overly natural and kept really stringently to the original colors, everything would just be grays and browns. And all three of these would have just been grays and browns. And as a result, the final fusion would just be grays and browns. And you could have seen me earlier doing sampling for each one of these things and the originals. I noticed that pretty much everything was just that. It was just grays with some very minor hints that it is green, greenish, or bluish. and a shit ton of browns. And that was it. So, originally, whenever I was trying to work in purples, as you saw much earlier, I was trying to get sort of a purple-red thing going on, which apparently I really love doing that, because I did that with the Cerise video as well. I eventually noticed, no, none of that is true to the characters that I base this on. So I ended up having to just go to this, and just taking as many liberties as I possibly can, and just trying to pick up on the sort of like the very light green accents that are found in Solaire's design, and some of the very, very basic sort of highlights that you will get from, say, Ostrava's aura that he gets sometimes, that orange. And that's it. That's all I've had to work with. Just grays, very, very low saturation greens, that bright green from Solaire's thing, which I didn't want to just be grass this time around. And the browns, and that's all I've had to work with. So if you're not happy with the colors, well, I'm just staying to what I have to work with here. Which I might end up saying fuck it and just changing some things around, but so far it looks okay. I guess I'll leave that to future Eli to determine whether or not he hates it or not. But his opinion doesn't really matter. Once you get back to fighting those ants, fucker, I will see you guys in the future. And although this war has brought both insect and humanity to the brink of extinction, perhaps this can serve to prove that the world is, indeed, big enough for all of us. What little it must say of us, that it was the ants who first reached out for peace, who made the first sign of trust by allowing us into their royal colony to make this accord. We can scarcely show a measure of such courage than to lay down our own arms as a gesture of goodwill. To the WASP delegation of General Zizix, to the Manta delegation, represented by the Ecclesiarchy's own Tereldia Sociril, and of course, Her High Majesty, Queen Zitre Ivi Ghazal, I hereby, in open authority from the human governments of the world, openly do hereby admit that y'all got punk motherfuckers! What now? What now, bug bitches? Told y'all motherfuckers I'd be back! What now? What? Torch that room! Dumbass fuckers let me in your home! Kill your families, bitch! We're burning you bitches on sidewalks for years, it ain't stopping! It's getting started! It's getting started, baby! Good ass betrayal! I'm gonna tell my daughter that story when she goes to bed on that $1 million spider silk blanket. You guys go on ahead. You don't want to know this shit? Nah, I got a commentator on the internet drawing from the early 21st century. I'm sure that's no, that was the last one. Hey, protecting the past will serve the future, right? Yeah. Burn a couple eggs for me, baby.
Yeah, we get a couple of
Burn a couple eggs for me. Alright. Now, what we got going here? It is a good thing that we have so many isolated vault doors with internet access. Really, I love it. 10 minutes? Oh, fuck. How am I supposed to do anything with... Ah, damn it. Okay, I'm shading the arms and... No, forget it. There's no way. Oh, yeah, the character thing. Okay, I can do that instead. Let's see. All three characters, I wanted to combine their personalities, which is kind of problematic. Usually, it's pretty easy to combine, themes and designs, but actually combining people, who they are, their ambitions, their desires, it's pretty damn difficult. So, first off, we can't get too much into specifics. Let's just go down the list. Ostrava. He's a fool. He was born a royal. He went looking for the truth, but he ended up finding too much of it. Because again, he came back from the Outlands, beyond Bellateria, came again upon his kingdom, which he hadn't abandoned, he just left for a while and then returned. And he ended up discovering not only was his kingdom gone, not only was his father gone as well, but also all the things that he once believed about his kingdom, his father's past, himself, are all lies as well. So he ends up killing himself. Not a great end. Solaire. Solaire is also a fool in his own way. He's a fanatic who gave up everything. Whatever his past life may have been, we don't know. But he gave up all of it and went looking for something that was completely unobtainable. It was so unattainable that we're not even sure what the hell it even was. It's possible that it could have just been that he had some sort of internal struggle and there was no way for him to figure out exactly what it was that he was even feeling. We have no idea. But he was what he was, and he ended up finding only a lie as his only answer. That's the only comfort that he ever got, was in a lie. Lucatiel, a fool as well in her own way. She was a peasant who ended up achieving power the hard way. She ended up looking for a resolution. She went out looking for her brother. She went looking for what became of him. And in some ways, I imagine, if I'm allowed to read into this a bit, it was not so much her brother so much as she went looking for resolution about her own life, about their own lifestyle. Because, again, they lived and died in service to the state. I imagine it felt very empty. There was just no point to it whatsoever. And knowing that her brother died for nothing, knowing that all of them are pretty much dying for nothing, I'm sure was something that absolutely compelled her. So, she was looking for that resolution. She was looking for some sort of meaning in her own life. And she ended up finding absolutely nothing. Not only did she not find any answers, she came to realize that the search for that answer was something that ended up damning her even more than it otherwise would have. So trying to combine all three of these people together, without addressing too many specifics, we'd end up with a character who, and by the way, this is not necessarily supposed to be male or female or anything. I tried to leave the design open enough that you could inject whatever you want, and just assume that it could be either one. I don't give a shit. The combination of all three of these would be a fool, of course, since all three of them are foolish in their own way, who was born into an unrespected power. That is, not someone, oh, the king, I love the king, anything like that. And probably it might have been something that was royal, I have no idea. But ended up giving it up. Probably, if I could assume, probably if it was something like they were born into some sort of lordship over something, then they would probably give it up knowing that it had no real meaning. If I had to make a conjecture on my own. And during their search, well, first, why did they leave? All the other three, Ostrava went looking for truth, Solaire went looking for who the hell knows what. Lucatiel went looking specifically for a resolution. Combine all three of these, probably someone that is looking for something that they consider to be unobtainable. That seems like a good resolution. Something that everyone says that they can't have. And instead they end up attaining some sort of new power, like a new personal power, something that's external to the idea of a royal authority. And let's see. They end up finding answers, but only to questions that they never asked. Because with Ostrava, he found too much. With Solaire, he found nothing but lies. And Lucatiel found absolutely nothing at all. So a good resolution for all three of those would be someone that is finding answers and learning more, but ultimately is bound by this curse of never knowing what it is that they set out looking for in the first place. As far as the specifics as to what they're looking for, what kind of power that they came into, and all that, to me, that's not really important. Because the important part is being able to fuse these things together, and use that as a baseline for whatever it is that you want to imagine. Now, if I had to create a backstory, I certainly could, but, that's not really the point. But as far as personality goes, I'm pretty pleased with that. I didn't really do that for the previous Trifusion, the one with the Ceres lady. But that's okay. With all three of these, and with all the Souls games, again, as I've mentioned before, I think the true strength of all these is that there's beauty from tragedy. And with this character, I would like to think that it, of course, would end up very poorly for whatever they happen to be looking for. That even despite all of the power that they end up attaining, then they end up failing anyways. In many ways, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, I would imagine that this is probably the closest to a player character that you would find if it was a Souls character. Then this would be very similar to a player character. That is someone that starts out with an ambiguous past, which is how all the player characters start. They start with a very baseline sort of narrative that you can build whatever you want, roleplay anything that you want on top of, and they end up finding power on their own, as you do throughout all the games. And then, ultimately, at the very end, especially with Souls games, you end up with answers to questions you may not necessarily have asked, but you're still left feeling unsatisfied in some ways, and almost as though that you have lost even when you have won. And that's, I guess, how I would rationalize this. That this is the closest to a player character sort of narrative that you can get to. Okay, but that's it as far as the character little art goes. I guess I will just briefly go over some little design things that I've been doing here. I'm kind of just whipping up this background very quickly. I think it only took me about, 40 minutes, an hour or something to do this. All this is probably the most sped up that I've ever sped up anything. This is like a 16 times normal speed, I think. Here, I tried a tree. That's not quite going to work. Actually, I was just experimenting to see if I could do something different with the brushes, and then I eventually decided, it kind of works in its own way. Then I decided, but fuck this tree, because this tree sucks. So I deleted it. And it's okay to delete things, as I said before. But the total length of this entire drawing was something ludicrous. It was, I think, 14 hours it took me in total. 14 hours of footage, I should clarify. The actual drawing took much longer than that in terms of planning and everything else. This whole video, geez, was much, much worse. The total length of time it took to compose all this video, especially that the beginning little thing with the character voice files and everything, you wouldn't believe how long that took. In total, it probably has taken me well over 24 hours, over a day of total work, just to be able to assemble all this together. And of course, it goes without saying that that's just work hours. In terms of total hours, it's probably... How long did I spend on this? It's probably like 2 weeks, I guess. Of course, I had to backtrack and look at the prior fusions as well. Was a lot of work, this Trifusion. Pretty exasperating. But it turned out alright, I think. Turned out alright indeedy. I like my lightning bolt up there. I've been waiting so long to get that lightning bolt, as we go to the final product here. I was waiting so long to be able to get that lightning bolt in there. And I know you guys like that prior little thumbnail that I did of the, whichever one it was. I think it was Solaire plus, was it Solaire plus Ostrava was the one that I did that had the pose that everyone liked. I sort of used that as the baseline for this. You can see me way, way before in the video coming up with other alternative poses. And there's one other one that I did kind of like, but I ended up liking this one just a little bit better, A few more things that I wanted to go over as far as designs that I don't think that I commented on in the prior little bits. The sort of almost throne defender sort of cloth that's coming off of him. I did that because I wanted to keep the tabard idea, but I didn't want it to cover up the armor completely. So I ended up splitting that down the middle as a way of compromising on that. The shield I didn't get to show off because, of course, it's on the other side. I probably could have come up with some idiotic way of trying to show that off at the same time. But you can't win at everything. Besides, I showed you guys what the actual design would have been anyways. I've used that as well. I added in a few little shadowy arch trees in the background, just for the hell of it. But as far as this entire series has gone, and as far as this video has gone, it's pretty good. There have been some up and downs, there's been some failures, but as I have said before, failures are only an opportunity to learn. And if you're watching this and you feel depressed for any reason, I only say this because some people do this. They watch, oh, I can never do that. Well, of course you're not going to do it if you feel that way. As I said before, that the trick with learning to draw is just doing it. Just enjoying little bitty, tiny victories. Like, I don't draw this way all the time. If I did, I would just off myself right now, because that's exasperating. I got my start drawing stupid, funny pictures, just trying to come up with dumb reaction faces. And ever so often, as I'm drawing these dumb reaction faces, I would think, well, let's try to color this one time. And that's it. You can't try to go out and swing for a home run every single time. Even with these things, I'm not trying my very best in every single aspect. You know, in some ways, like, in this case, I would say, like, the shading, it's not realistic or anything, obviously, but I was trying my best to ensure that it was, for this style, as good as I could get it. But for things like the line drawing on the shield or something like that, I didn't like that. I didn't try as hard as I could have. The background, obviously, this is not as good as I could do if I really put my mind to it. I know you want to swing for the fences, because so do I. You know, I want to, every single time that I sit down to do something like this, I keep thinking, this time I should try for photorealism just because. And then I start up for like 5 minutes and then I realize, no, fuck that. That's like driving nails into my dick. There is no way that I'm going to attempt that this time. And, you know, that's fine, because ultimately I'm still producing something that I enjoy doing, and I'm making enough small adjustments to what I normally would do that I'm learning the process anyways. And that's what you should be doing. Even if you're only good enough to do little stick figures, the next time that you're drawing, don't try to draw this. Just try to draw a stick figure that has big full breasts, or has a monkey tail, or is riding a Tyrannosaurus Rex. You know, whatever you want. Whatever you want. That's how you learn, and that's how you grow as a person. By riding T-Rexes whenever you get the chance. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video series. I hope you enjoyed this video specifically, and I hope you enjoyed the production value of this one specifically, because that was a pain in the ass. Not sure if I'll ever do that again, that's for damn sure. But for the time being, I will... what will I do? I will not be doing another one of these for quite some time. Instead, the next major project that I'm going to be doing is an animation, hopefully. And maybe something stupid in between now and then. I actually don't have any plans. I'm just making a suggestive humming noise. That's my suggestive humming noise. And probably in between now, maybe another art gripe. Who knows? Leave me a suggestion. Leave your deepest desires so that I can ignore them. But seriously, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I will see you guys in a future video of some sort. Keep trying to improve yourselves. Bye now.